Parental fatigue, burnout. If you're feeling this, we get it. But there's one thing we use when we're feeling depleted. It's called Rehydrate. Delicious electrolytes that increase blood flow to your brain, organs, and nervous system, boosting your energy without anything nasty. Magic.
Next time you're feeling flat, give Rehydrate a go. Available at Coles.
It's the Happy Families podcast with Dr. Justin Coulson, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. We're Luke and Susie, a husband and wife radio team, and the parents of 3 young boys. And today we are talking about the Coulson household with Justin's wife Kylie spilling the beans. For a long time, Luke, we've been talking with Dr. Justin Coulson. He comes into the studio. We have a lot of chats on air and off air as well, which is always a whole lot of fun. And we've learnt so much about parenting along the way. But quite commonly what comes up is my wife Kylie, my wife Kylie, my wife Kylie.
Well, she's amazing.
She is amazing. So we've got her in studio with us today. And today is about my wife Kylie, your wife, Dr.
I'm
Justin
so
Coulson.
excited to tell you all about my wife Kylie.
Hey,
Well,
you can just step aside and just
We might
be
have
quiet
to
for a
turn your
second.
mic off at some point.
Be like that.
Because we've got his wife Kylie.
We do. Kylie, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
It's got to be an interesting life for you. You have 6 daughters together, 3 who are older, 3 who are younger. Your youngest is 5, your oldest is married. So that's quite an age bracket for you.
Yep.
And you're parenting with someone who is a parenting expert. So my first question for you...
Oh, I see where this is going.
My first question for you is, it might not be what you think. As the wife of a parenting expert, does this put pressure on or take pressure off you as a mum?
I feel immense pressure.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel immense pressure. In the early days, it was suffocating. It was very, not so much because of Justin, but because of what other people thought of me as a result of being Justin's wife.
And in hindsight, do you think they thought that? Like, do you have evidence that was the case, or do you think it was mostly your perception, like you feeling the pressure?
Me feeling the pressure. Yeah, for the most part, I think that it's very much me. But just as you would have experience online, things get a little bit intense sometimes, and often there's a negative comment which is quite intense, and that leaves me feeling very unsettled. So I really enjoy being in the background.
So you've never experienced that reaction to a negative comment online or that's come through. It's amazing.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because if someone goes after Luke, it's like I don't even sometimes think that there's a lion in me. But if someone goes after Luke, I suddenly get even more protective than I do with my children, I think. I just get
Susie
really
is the
riled up.
loveliest person in the world.
Just don't say something bad about Luke.
But when she loses it, when that switch flicks, like there was a moment when we were in a car rental place. And she
thought they would take advantage of my husband.
I was holding her by the shoulders and pulling her back. I'm glad there wasn't someone with a phone.
Yeah.
But you didn't say anything wrong, but you would.
We've been really fortunate though. We've built a beautiful community online with the Happy Families Facebook page, and most people are really, really great. And over time, I've just learned not to let Kylie know that people are saying these things about me or about us. Yeah. It's just easier that way, and Kylie's so much calmer because of that.
Yeah.
So then I want to know about. When have you ever thrown his words back to him in the midst when you're on a different position on a parenting situation to go, well, as a great parenting expert once said.
Yes.
While Kylie thinks of a scenario to dump me in it, let me just share a really funny situation where I was being the most empathic, kind, gentle parenting expert, right? And Kylie was having a really hard day and things weren't going well, and so I walked over to her and I said, honey, it's been a really rough day for you. I know how it feels. And I started to do the whole empathy thing. She looked at me and said, don't you give me that psychology crap.
I feel you, sister.
All right, throw him into it. When have you thrown him back at himself?
Oh, there's too many to bring up.
Come on, there's not that many, really. I'm getting a little bit nervous.
The reality is, for both of us, even though we have got lots of things that help us, and we know a lot of things, just like the everyday mum and dad, we get it wrong all the time. And some days it's me and some days it's him. And thankfully, more times than not, we share. We take turns.
Yeah.
So it's not.
The days that we're both having a bad day, it's really bad.
It's really bad.
Well, that was the most devastating thing at the start of our marriage was when, because we'd both been sick, but we'd been sick one at a time. The first time we both had a vomiting experience at the same time and there was nobody to look after us. Like we went, this is not what marriage is supposed to be. But that sense of that when you it's all good when one's having a good day, one's having a bad day, but when you're both having a bad day together, who's there to rescue you?
Yeah.
So are there times where it comes down to, I know you're the parenting expert, but I am a woman. I know what my daughter's going through.
Yes and no. I think that I look at the journey that we've taken together as husband and wife, and in the early days, Justin's been very open, sharing the fact that parenting was hard for him in the beginning, and this journey started for him because he recognised a lack in his own life. But it took me a long time as his wife to actually come on board and go, you know what, I actually want to do things differently. I've been brought up a certain way and I thought I was okay and I thought it was all right.
And Kylie's training was in early childcare, so she knew more about children than I did. So for me to suddenly say, well, I'm doing this psychology degree and look what I've learned, and Kylie was like, no, definitely not.
But I had a really big epiphany one day. I had a really, really bad day. I had 2 children at the time and I was pregnant with number 3. And my 2-year-old was just losing the plot. And I had spent an entire day with this child losing the plot at me. And Justin walked home. I walked in the door after work one afternoon and
the house was a mess. Nothing had been done. There was no food cooked or anything like that.
Dishevelled Kylie kind of looked at him and just went, you deal with this. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I walked off. And about 3 minutes later, everything was just calm. And I came out to see Justin kneeling at my daughter's level, and I heard him say, you've had a really bad day today, haven't you? And she burst into tears and they had a little hug, and that was the end of the chaos. It just melted. And I thought, wow, maybe I do need to kind of listen a little bit more to what he has to share. And so as a result, that kind of journey it's taken time. As a woman, you feel innately equipped to be a mother, but the reality is there's so much we can learn, and not everything comes innately.
Yeah.
And often our first initial reaction is not necessarily the right one.
And in life, like from a computer term, there's these 2 words that you use to say it's a static page or it's a dynamic page, and the static page means it stays the same. And it's predictable and everything is in order. The dynamic means it's changing, and so therefore every little detail that changes means there's a whole new equation and algorithm on how to come out the other side. And parenting is the most dynamic that I've ever experienced. And no matter how much you know, they're bound to throw up a scenario that doesn't quite fit the textbook, right?
Well, and I think too, because we're so emotionally tied to our children, so it's really easy in a moment to have knowledge. But once there is emotional connection to it, utilising that knowledge in that highly emotive state is really challenging.
So on that story, Justin, I saw your eyes. that memory. What was it that got you emotional in that moment?
Oh, I just I love my wife. And I love hearing her say nice things about me.
Well, that actually raises a good point, is when it comes to raising children, for those who are fortunate to still be married in that scenario, raising children together, how important is the marriage relationship in parenting?
Everything.
It's everything.
Everything. Without that relationship,
we had a
it's hard.
We had a 2-year phase with one of our children where it was torture, and I don't like talking about it because I'm the parenting expert and everything's supposed to be perfect, right? But my kids are not perfect. Our children are not. Our children are not perfect.
Her kids are great, but yours.
I'm so used to talking to you on my own. Our children are not perfect. They are learning and progressing and growing just like anybody, and they have imperfect models in us. We do the best that we can, but we make mistakes. And with this particular child, for 2 years, just was so challenging, and the relationship that we share, it was really hard for 2 years. It was so hard. And what we found was that when we were aligned, when we were working together, when we were on the same page, when we were connecting, no matter how bad things were outside our relationship, if we were together, we could weather anything. But when we were fractured, when we were saying, what are you doing it like this for? You should be doing it like that. Or, if I had a bad moment with that daughter, if Kylie had a bad moment with that daughter, and it was easy for one of us to step in and be judgmental and say, why did you do that? We've talked about this. We're not supposed to be responding to her in this way. Our relationship would, and the whole family felt like it was on such a shaky foundation all of a sudden. So the quality of the marriage is central to, I think, the well-being of the family.
Yeah. So then what have you found is the best way to protect that? So both perspectives, the best way to protect and invest into your marriage relationship?
So until that time, we actually thought we were invincible as a husband and wife team. We actually thought we were really doing things great. And that experience really highlighted just the need to connect, even when things are good. And so out of that, actually, we created a little thing that has made all the difference in our lives. We have a quarterly getaway. We go away for 2 nights together.
Every 12 weeks. So at the end of term or towards the end of term, we just disappear every 12 weeks for 2 nights.
And if you have been listening long enough, you know who Justin is, and dynamic is a really good word, Luke. For Justin, nothing stays the same for very long. And so that getaway would really, really be great if it was just rest and relaxation, but it really isn't with Justin. He has been very instrumental in being very intentional about ensuring that our relationship improves and grows. And so in that time frame, we actually spent a lot of time talking about our family, and we look at each of our children. We discuss what's going well for them, what's not, how we can support them better as mum and dad. We look at our own relationship, what's going well, what's not. 3 questions. What's going well, what's not, and what are we going to do to make things better? What are we going to work on?
What's our next 12 weeks look like? Yeah, I've got the agenda. It's all planned. Kylie's like, can we just...
Sounds super romantic.
Yeah. Well, we fit a little bit of that in there as well. Don't you worry. But it's been huge, hasn't it?
It has literally changed things for us.
And I know a lot of people will hear us talk about that and be like, well, I can't go away every 12 weeks. I mean, there's the cost and who looks after the children.
Yeah.
We are very conscious of budget. In fact, we live in Brisbane. We stay in Brisbane. We just stay at a hotel in Brisbane. And because all of the hotels in the city charge, $50 or $60 to park overnight, we ride our bikes in from a nearby suburb. We park the car, we get on our bikes, put all of our clothes in a backpack, and we ride in so we don't have to pay that. We get the biggest discounts we can. We're not spending a lot of money, but it's 2 nights in a nice-ish hotel, and we spend that time together. And in terms of babysitting, we rely on family to with grandparents. I know not everyone's got this, but we've got 2 sets of grandparents, and we ask if they can do it twice a year each. And sometimes they can't, which is really, we're like, this is what it's like for people that don't have support. This is really hard. How are we going to do it this time? And we've got to be really creative. But it's been a game changer.
We you had me at weekend getaway. You lost me at bikes and backpacks, but we have implemented some of the Dr. Justin Coulson suggestions. One of them being family meeting, and we've been a bit slack on it lately. But the thing that we found as that the benefit of that is, as while it's an agenda and while it's a meeting, the reality is we discovered that most of our problems, most of the frayed edges, came from poor communication, lack of communication. She thought one thing, I thought another, the kids thought something different, and then we found out at the moment where it was least convenient that we're on a different page, whereas something like just having that dedicated time to talk that stuff out actually took away the communication breakdown, which left more room for that connection.
Yeah, totally. And that's what we found. It's just, it's being connected and being on the same page and allowing us to, 6 children, it's not very often that we don't have a conversation that is not interrupted. It doesn't happen. we literally, 3 sentences in and someone's knocking on the door, Mom, I need this. Dad, can you help me with that? And it's frustrating and hard. And
there are days where we think we should have stopped at 1. and that's, we love our children so much, but just so that we can have a conversation. Like, how nice would it be to be able to wake up on a Saturday morning with nothing to do but go down to your favourite cafe? But that's not the life that we live. That's not the life we chose. So we have to make time for each other, and that's been the heart of, it's become the heart of our lives, hasn't it?
All right, so we said there was a couple, didn't we? So we've got to the weekend getaways. Was there other things you implemented?
So what would you say would be the next?
Well, I don't know if we can say this or not, but making sure that we have a great intimate life is critical. It's overlooked. I run seminars on this sort of stuff from time to time. Corporates might ask me to come in and run relationship sort of things, and so many people will roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, yeah, like who's got the energy for it at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night?" Whereas we've been really intentional about we don't have any TV subscriptions. So we're not on with Foxtel or Netflix or Disney or Amazon Prime or Stan or any of the others. We actually don't have any of that. And people say, well, you've got 6 kids, you mustn't have a TV. And we're like, well, we do, but we actually like other things more than TV. And that's to have that physical connection is absolutely critical. Yeah. And it's so easily overlooked. People are influenced in a range of ways and start to think that it should be something, and they try to allow it to, or they allow other influences into that relationship, or they start to feel like it's the same old, which means that they're actually not connecting. They're not connect. We're divorcing physical intimacy from emotional intimacy. When the emotional intimacy is there, the physical intimacy doesn't seem to be a problem. So that's something that we've been really intentional about, absolutely consistently. What else have we done, honey?
I think finding time, going for walks, again, we've said it with the kids, but going for walks has been something that we've absolutely loved doing. Again, just getting outside the house, and even if it's 20 minutes, just take the dog for a walk and just have some downtime. And for both of us, outdoors is
fuel for the soul.
Yeah.
One of the experiences we had recently, the kids wanted to go to the park, and rather than sitting on the park bench, and we could still have a conversation there, they went to the playground and went, and then we just did laps around this big kids park and playground, so we still could keep an eye on them, but we were just talking as we were walking, and there was something sort of, there's conversation where you can sit and gaze into each other's eyes, but there was something powerful about just the moving together, and I don't know whether there was a rhythm about it or there was something.
You can't usually use your phone while you're walking, can you?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I find I'm more relaxed and I find it easier. Stuff comes out. Like, I can see why you take the daughters for a walk, just one-on-one relationship building, because, I don't know, there's something about it. Eventually your guard comes down and it's easier to talk, I think, when you're walking. Not when you're running, but when you're talking.
Side by side feels less intrusive. It feels a little bit more like you're just with somebody rather than face to face and almost confrontational at times.
So we shouldn't do staring competitions for our romantic enhancement?
You can do that. Yeah. I think that's fun. Yeah. Whoever blinks first. Yeah.
So can I ask Kylie, we've got to wrap up shortly, but with 3 girls who have gone through or in the midst of the teenage years, you've got 3 still coming through, do you feel like the next 3 will do better because you've already been through it once?
I want to say yes.
You're not going to, are you?
I want to say yes.
Do better is an interesting term. Can I just? I think they'll be raised differently. I know you asked Kylie, but I think that they'll all do well in their own ways because they're unique people. But I cut you off, and I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. They are all so different, and yes, we definitely parent them different, and that became very obvious as 4, 5 and 6 came along. And part of that comes as a parent, you become more confident in your ability to respond. And with that, I think creates a calmer child in lots of cases. In saying that, you haven't met Emily yet.
Our last one, oh my goodness, holy cow.
We have bookends.
Okay.
Number 1 and number 6, energy to the max and just confidence like you've never seen. But will they do better? I don't necessarily believe they'll do better, but we will be better parents as a result of the experiences that we've had.
Yeah. Well, you're learning different lessons with the last three than some of the lessons you told us about early on. In the first three, I'm not to say it's not that you know everything, you just got to learn new things now because it's a different dynamic, different kids. 3, 4, 5, 6 versus the 1 and 2. So it's just, this is the beautiful thing. Parenting, when people will talk about, because some people try and convince those who don't have kids or don't want kids that they should want them and have them, and they try and tell them how wonderful it is. And I have these conversations and I'll just say, none of it makes any sense. There is no spreadsheet that I can put where the sum total of the formula at the end says it's a win. But for some reason, and it's somehow, your life is so much richer in these experiences, but it doesn't add up on a spreadsheet, does it?
And so much tireder.
Yeah. It's for a time though, right?
All right,
Sleep will come.
Let's all just keep this moment going for just a little bit, for another minute of contemplation, which is really just, let's all just take a 60-second break.
Kylie, it's so great to meet you. Thanks for sharing some of the inside story of life in the Coulson household with a parenting expert for a husband. Justin, thanks for sharing as well and not goofing off too much.
I did my best. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm so glad that you got to meet Kylie.
Oh, you're adorable together. Thanks for your time, Dr. Justin Coulson and Kylie. We appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed the podcast, we'd love for you to leave a review on iTunes.
Like Samantha did, I really enjoy hearing his outlook. I grew up very differently from my children and I'm trying to break the cycle that my parents have given me. I just want to have a happy family and feel very fortunate to have found and heard these podcasts. I can only hope I do a good job raising my little E's. If I wasn't so far from him, I'd book him here so I could hear his advice firsthand.
Well, if you'd like Justin to speak at your school or organisation, all you got to do is visit happyfamilies.com.au.